first off, welcome, good afternoon, and welcome to our What's Next presentation. My name is Kathy Guillaume. I'm a financial aid coordinator here at the Student Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. I am joined today by Jennifer Towers. She's an assistant director, also a part of the Student Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. And we both work in the outreach, training, and compliance area here at UF. In this presentation today, we'll be going over some financial aid basics, as well as giving you some information and some tips that'll be helpful as you guys begin to transition into your undergraduate year here at UF. So hopefully this presentation will be helpful in all of that. For today's agenda, we are going to do a quick overview of financial aid and review some financial aid basics. We're going to take a look at the one.uf page and look at a couple of screens so that you know how to navigate your financial aid. We're going to take a look at receiving financial aid and what that looks like, how to maintain financial aid, and then we'll talk about some petition options that are available to students who have some extenuating circumstances. All right, so let's get started with an overview of financial aid. Before we go into any detail, let's take a look at your journey to UF so far. So hopefully you all have completed the 22-23 FAFSA application. The FAFSA application is the free application for student aid, and this is how students are considered for federal aid. If you haven't completed the FAFSA for the upcoming fall and spring semester, it's not too late. You can still do that. Just be sure to submit your application as soon as possible on studentaid.gov, and also make sure that you include the UF school code on there as well. Another financial aid application that hopefully you've completed already is specifically for those students who are receiving Bright Futures. If you're receiving Bright Futures, you would have completed the Florida Financial Aid application or the FFAA application. This is handled by OSFA, which is the Office of Student Financial Aid. So if you are eligible for Bright Futures, be sure, if you haven't already, submit all required documentation in. The deadline to complete this application is August 31st, and just make sure that UF is listed as the school that you're attending so that we can process your scholarship for the year. So aside from the different financial aid forms, last year you all completed your admissions application, and you all achieved a really great accomplishment by being accepted to the University of Florida. So congratulations again on that. It's a great accomplishment, and we're super excited to have you be a part of the Gator Nation. Being a double Gator myself, it's a really great experience. So we're really looking forward to seeing what you all accomplish here at UF. So in addition from being admitted, you would have gotten your financial aid package if you completed a FAFSA application or your FFA application. And hopefully you completed all requirements needed in order to receive your financial aid and to begin classes this upcoming fall semester. So the next question is, what do we do next? What do we need to start thinking about? What else is there to do? Well, to ensure a smooth transition here to UF, it's really important to understand your college expenses, understanding the different financial aid possibilities that are out there, and then also understanding the requirements in order to receive and maintain those financial aid. And that's what we'll go into detail as we go through this presentation. So the first thing we want to talk about is costs. We all know that college costs money, right? So let's talk about the different costs that are associated with attending a university. So there are different types of educational related expenses, such as tuition and fees, transportation, personal items, housing, food, etc. And all of this combined together creates what's called a cost of attendance. Your cost of attendance is a breakdown of the average costs that students may incur while they're attending a university or a college. Typically, the cost of attendance is updated every single year, and UF provides those costs of attendance on our financial aid website. So we include an average cost for the fall and spring semester so that students can have an idea of how much they'll be spending while they're attending our institution. A breakdown of the cost of attendance will include some direct costs and it'll include some indirect costs. Direct costs are anything that the university bills to the student. So this is something that you will pay directly to the university. So when you enroll in courses, you're going to pay tuition and fees directly to UF. If you plan on living on campus, or if you're purchasing a meal plan, you're going to pay those expenses directly to UF, and those would be considered direct costs. Indirect costs would be anything that's not billed by us and not paid to the university. So these are non-university charges. This includes any technology expenses, if you're purchasing a laptop through another store, if you're paying your phone bills, if you're living off campus or buying your own groceries. These are considered indirect costs because UF is not going to bill you for those expenses. You're going to be paying those to other entities or other companies or businesses, lenders, those would be the people who you would be paying it to. So that's what our cost of attendance includes. It includes those direct costs and those indirect costs. If you want to see a full breakdown of those numbers, there are located on our financial aid website so that you can have a better idea of what those numbers look like. Okay, so we've talked about what the costs are. How do we pay for those expenses? So there are various types of payment options that you can utilize here at UF. The first set of payment options are options that are managed by our university bursar's office. This includes Florida Prepaid, any third-party sponsors, online payment, or mailing some type of payment to the bursar's office. So for Florida Prepaid, if you have Florida Prepaid, this is going to help cover your tuition portion. With Florida Prepaid, there's no action that you have to take, no documentation that you have to submit. This is processed automatically by our university bursar's office. So they pull in information based on the student's social security number, and they automatically bill your Florida Prepaid plan based on what your plan covers. Students do have an option to opt out. So if you don't want your Florida Prepaid plan to be billed for any semester, you have to actually physically press a button to opt out of your prepaid on your one.uf page. And you want to do that for each semester you don't want your prepaid to be billed. Otherwise, it will be billed automatically. If you have any third-party sponsors or any non-UF organizations that are going to be paying a student's tuition or paying a student's health insurance, you just want to make sure that the documentation required for that is submitted to the university bursar's office. This documentation needs to be submitted before the end of the first week of classes in order to process payment for that in a timely manner. If you want to do online payments, that's an option. Students can complete an online payment through their one.uf page. If they have a parent or another third-party person who would like to pay on the student's behalf, there is a Family Gator payment access that students can send an invitation to either a parent or a third-party person, and then you can make those payments on the student's account through one.uf. Otherwise, you can just do an electronic check on your one.uf. There's no service charge associated with that. If you want to use a credit card or a debit card, that's also an option. However, there is a service charge associated with that. Another option is mailing in a payment or dropping off a check in person. There's no cash that can be accepted at the university bursar's office. It's only going to be either a personal check, a cashier's check, or a money order. And you want to make sure that the student's name, UFID, local address are included in that so that the bursar's office can process those payments correctly. If you want to mail in a check, the address can be found on our financial aid website. And you can also take a picture of the screen up here as well. If you want to bring it in person, that's also an option. You would just submit those payments through our 24-hour drop box. It's located outside of Chrysler Hall. It's a secure way to drop off any payments for the student. Again, you just want to make sure that name and UFID are included so that the payments can be applied appropriately. All right, another form of paying or another option to pay for your expenses is using financial aid. There are 4 different categories of financial aid. This includes grants, scholarships, student employment, and student loans. These can come from various different funding sources. Eligibility for these can vary. Most of these programs require a FAFSA application or submitting an application with various donors or through the state. It can come from the state level, the federal level, or the institutional level. And requirements to renew them, if they are renewable, can vary for these as well. So we'll talk a little bit about different types of award programs within these different categories so that you can kind of have an idea of what that might look like. So we call these award highlights. One of the most common scholarship that students use is the Florida Bright Futures Scholarship. About 90% of our freshmen come in using the Florida Bright Future Scholarship, and there's 2 tiers that we use. The first one is the Florida Academic Scholarship. The Florida Academic Scholarship covers 100% of the UF tuition rate. Now with Bright Futures in general, it pays at a credit hour rate, so it pays by the credit hour. So students who are enrolled in a certain amount of credit hours, so let's say 12 credits, it'll be the rate times the number of credits that they're enrolled in. So for instance, the academic level, it covers the 100% tuition rate. Here at UF, our tuition is currently $212.71. So Bright Futures Academic, the top level, will pay $212.71 times the credit hour that the student is enrolled in. With Bright Futures, there are renewal requirements. Students do not have to apply each year in order to renew their scholarship. They just want to make sure that they meet the renewal requirements for their specific Bright Futures tier in order to automatically renew. So with the academic level, it does require a 3.0 GPA, and you want to make sure that you pass all of your courses that you're enrolled in. Again, the Bright Futures does require that FFAA application. So if you haven't already and you're eligible, you want to make sure that that gets submitted as soon as possible. Bright Futures can pay for the fall, spring, and summer semester that a student is enrolled in, as long as they're enrolled at least 6 credits. We disperse Bright Futures after the drop add period, and anytime that you drop or withdraw from a course, you are going to pay back Bright Futures for those credits drop. So that's something important that you want to keep in mind as you're starting your studies here at UF. If at any point you're thinking about dropping or withdrawing from a course, just know that you'll have to pay back Bright Futures for the credits that you dropped. Okay, so this is the academic level. The Florida Medallion level, which is the second tier of Bright Futures, it pays at the 75% tuition rate. So that's about $159.53 per credit hour that the student is enrolled in. To renew for the Florida Medallion level, it does require a student to meet a 2.75 GPA. And again, you just want to make sure that you're passing all of your courses that you're enrolled in. Same thing, enrolled at least 6 credit hours. If you drop any courses, you will have to pay it back. And then that Bright Futures, the Medallion, and the academic, it pays for the fall, spring, and summer semester if a student is enrolled in the appropriate hours. Another type of aid program that I'll talk about today is the Federal Work Study. The Federal Work Study program is a need-based program. It does require a FAFSA application on file, and a student must demonstrate financial need as determined by the FAFSA. It also requires a student to be enrolled at least half-time, so that's 6 credits. And if you're awarded Federal Work Study, you can work up to 20 hours a week. The Federal Work Study program essentially allows students to find jobs on campus in order to earn wages. So the student would go through the same job search process. They can find student assistant jobs here at UF on our jobs.ufl.edu website. If they apply, they'll probably have to submit a resume, a cover letter, go through the interview process, and if they're hired, they can earn wages every 2 weeks and essentially earn a paycheck every 2 weeks. The wages that they earn, it's not something that goes directly to UF. This money goes directly into the student's account. Sometimes we get questions of whether the wages are automatically applied to the student's charges. It does not. It goes directly to the student. So they can use that to purchase any educational, expenses, supplies, books, things like that. It's their money to use for their education. The federal work-study program generally awards up to $1,500 a semester. So students can earn or work up to $1,500 a semester. And then obviously you have to work in order to receive the award. So if you don't find a job on campus, we don't pay out the federal work-study funds for that. I strongly encourage students to use it if you have it, if you're eligible for it and you have it on your award package, and your course schedule allows you to, have a job on campus. It's a great way to earn some work experience. It's a great way to network and meet, different faculty and staff on campus. So if you have that option, I strongly encourage you to utilize it. It's a great way to kind of like, earn work experience and, meet other people on campus. Okay. The next type of aid program we'll talk about are student loans. So there are a couple of different types of federal student loans that are available to students. The first ones that I'll talk about are the subsidized and the unsubsidized loans. These two loans are loans that a student can borrow. So this would be under the student's name. It does require a FAFSA on file. There's the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan. The subsidized is a need-based loan. So if students are eligible for it based on the FAFSA application, they can receive a subsidized loan or they can be offered a subsidized loan. And the subsidized loan, essentially, it's a loan that does not accumulate any interest while the student is in school. The interest will begin to accrue after they graduate or if they completely withdraw from school. The second type of loan, which is the unsubsidized loan, this is the loan that will accrue interest once the student takes it out. So if you are taking out an unsubsidized loan, as soon as the loans disperse, your interest will start accumulating each month while you're in school. With both of these loans, students are not required to make any payments on them while they're in school. Payments will begin 6 months after they graduate or if they completely withdraw. So if you have that option, you definitely want to make sure you borrow smart, only borrow what you need. Don't borrow everything that's awarded to you just because it's there. Just borrow what you need in order to pay for your expenses. If you do want to use the loans, again, it does require a FAFSA application on file, and students need to be enrolled at least 6 credit hours to be eligible for the loan. On your 1.UF page, if you are offered any loans, you'll be able to see it on your financial aid summary. And then if you want to accept the loans, you'll either accept it, you can reduce it if you don't want the full amount, or you can completely decline the loan on your 1.UF page if you don't want it. After accepting the loan, you'll also have to complete an entrance counseling and a master promissory note on studentaid.gov in order to complete the acceptance process for the loans. So if you're offered loans, it's not that you actually receive the funds. You actually have to, there's a couple of steps that you have to complete in order for those funds to actually disperse. So you have to accept it, complete the entrance counseling, and complete the master promissory note in order to fully accept the loan. Another type of loan is the Parent Plus loan. This will be something that a parent can take out. So with the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan, students can only receive a certain amount per academic year. So there's like a limit each year that students can receive. If that amount is not enough to pay for expenses, a Parent Plus loan option may be another way to go. With the Parent Plus loan, this is something that the parent will borrow. It also requires a completed FAFSA application on file. And the parent would have to complete a supplemental application on studentaid.gov. This extra application will require additional information from the parent, and it is subject to credit approval. So if the parent is approved, they can receive either a specific requested amount or an amount up to that cost of attendance. If the parent is denied, we won't be able to award the student up to the cost of attendance, but there is an option where the student may receive additional unsubsidized loan in their name The only thing is that that amount is also limited to how much the student can receive. So either way, if you're looking for additional loan options, you can still apply for a Parent Plus loan. That's another way that students can receive additional funding for their educational expenses. In addition to applying for that Parent Plus loan, the parent will also have to complete a master promissory note on studentaid.gov, and that'll complete the acceptance process for that. All right. The last aid program that I want to talk about are scholarships, and these are more so outside scholarships. A lot of times students may ask, well, how can I apply for additional scholarships to, help fund my education? Looking outside for scholarships, you can look through different resources. So students can look to their organizations in their community. They can look to their employers or their parents' employers. They can look through search engines such as Google or FastWeb or College Scholarships. Another great resources that students can use is the scholarship search engine. Here at UF on our financial aid website, we have a scholarship search engine where students can look for scholarships within different UF departments as well as outside of UF. So there's a screenshot up there on the screen there. Students can filter it out based on their major, based on merit or need, based on their class standing. So if they're a freshman or a sophomore or a senior, those are different ways that they can filter the scholarship and look for additional options, not only within UF, but also outside of UF as well. So if you're looking for outside scholarships, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not, always easy. Students will have to, diligently look for scholarships in order to see what's out there, and just apply for scholarship. Definitely be sure that you're aware of any scams, like being careful not to provide, confidential information on applications. You shouldn't be paying in order to apply for an application, and you shouldn't be required to input banking information or credit card information. So just be careful on what you apply for. Make sure that there aren't any scams or anything like that, because there are some out there that will try to get your information. So just be careful of that. Other than that, definitely use our scholarship search engine resource. It's a great way to look for scholarships. Now, if you do have an outside scholarships, maybe you want a scholarship or someone's send you a scholarship to use towards your educational expenses, those scholarships can be dropped off to our office in person at Chrysler Hall, and we can add it to your award package, or your scholarship donor or you can mail that scholarship check to the University of Florida directly. And the address is also found on our website, but it's up here as well if you want to take a quick picture of that. But once we receive the scholarship check, we will post it to the student's financial aid summary so that you'll be able to see it there. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the 1.uf page. The 1.uf page is a really important page that students you want to get familiar with. This is where you're going to have a lot of your information regarding financial aid, regarding any holds or to-dos on your account. This is where you can view your class schedule, register for courses, view grades. So you want to make sure that you get familiar with this page, with this website, so that you don't miss any important information needed, not just for your financial aid, but any other requirements for your college, for graduation, things like that. So this is what the 1.uf page looks like. You'll log in with your DataLink username and password. Once you log on, you're going to see your 1.uf dashboard. And this is where you'll be able to get an overview of all of your information. You'll be able to see your action items section where you'll see your holds and your to-do information. You want to make sure those items are cleared, so that your financial aid doesn't get affected by it, or any other things like registration or getting your transcripts. You want to make sure none of those get affected. So if you have holds or to-dos on your 1.uf, you want to make sure you get those cleared as soon as possible. On your 1.uf page, this is where you'll also be able to see your campus finances. So any charges that are due, you'll be able to see how much is due. You'll be able to see a breakdown of what is due. you'll be able to look at your financial aid summary as well. So on that financial aid section, you'll click on the academic year and you'll be able to see a breakdown of your award summary, how much you're receiving in order to pay for those expenses. This is also where you'll be able to set up direct deposit, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on in the slide. But if you have any financial aid refunds coming to you, you'll want to have a direct deposit set up, and this could be your checking, your checking or bank account that's under the student's name. It has to have the student name on there. But you can set that up on one.uf, and any extra financial aid refund that's coming to you will go directly in there so that you can use it for any other expenses that you may have. All right, so we're going to take a look at the financial aid summary page. So on the financial aid summary page, if you were to click the 22-23 button there, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. And we'll just kind of look at each of those sections. So at the top there, you're going to see what's called the satisfactory academic progress. If you're receiving any federal aid, you are required to maintain satisfactory academic progress. If you're not meeting satisfactory academic progress, or SAP, you'll see something on there that says not meeting SAP, and that will terminate you for your financial aid. So you lose eligibility for federal financial aid. There is an option to petition for that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you want to make sure that you're checking that, make sure that you're meeting SAP so that you can continue receiving federal financial aid. All right, under your SAP, you're going to see the estimated cost of attendance. So this is where it's going to show a breakdown of your cost of attendance per semester. So you'll see an amount for fall, for spring, and the summer semester if you plan on attending summer classes. Remember, this is not a bill. This is not what you're going to be paying out of pocket. This is just an estimated amount that includes everything from tuition, from housing, from personal expenses. We include all of that so you can have an idea of how much money you will need in order to pay for these expenses. But we do include that on your financial aid summary page so that you can be able to plan your finances accordingly. All right, under the cost of attendance, you'll see your aid package. And this is going to show a list of any grants that were awarded to you, scholarships. If you were offered federal work study, that'll show up on there as well. And if you are offered any student loans, you'll be able to see that on your aid package as well. For the loans, you'll see something that says take action. And this is how you can accept, reduce, or decline any subsidized or unsubsidized loan. Your financial aid package also includes a total of your aid that's offered to you, and then also shows a breakdown of your financial aid for the fall and spring semester. Generally, financial aid is split into fall and spring. So if you look at the total amount of financial aid, just know that half of it gets released or dispersed in the fall, and the other half is dispersed in the spring semester. All right. Under the aid package, all the way at the bottom of your aid summary, you're going to see something that's called the additional aid section. If you're receiving any outside scholarships, you'll want to make sure you report that on your additional aid. And this will allow our office to be aware of any incoming scholarships that you're waiting for. This is also really important for anyone who's receiving federal aid or need-based financial aid, because those aid programs cannot be awarded over your cost of attendance. So to ensure that we don't over award you in financial aid and to prevent any issues with your financial aid, report any outside scholarships as soon as possible so that we can make sure we're not over awarding you in financial aid. Okay, so we've talked about the costs associated, and we've talked about different payment options, specifically with paying through the bursar as well as financial aid. A common question with financial aid is how do we receive that money and how do we use that to pay for expenses? So when receiving financial aid, first you'll receive your financial aid offer, and your financial aid offer, which is posted on that one.uf page, that's that financial aid summary that I showed you in the previous slide. We offer the best and total financial aid that we can through our office. So any FAFSA application that comes in, any information that we have to determine your eligibility, that gets posted on your financial aid offer. With federal aid or any type of financial aid offer, we try to award you up to your financial need or up to your cost of attendance. And your financial aid offer can consist of multiple different types of aid. For the summer semester, if you plan on enrolling for the summer, we typically post financial aid offers late in the spring semester. It does require you to be enrolled. So if you're not enrolled in classes for the summer, we're not going to be able to post a financial aid offer for you. But if you are enrolled, then we can post an offer for you so that you can see what you're eligible for summer courses. After your first year, for your second or third or fourth year that you're here, we will post financial aid offers around the summer semester. So if you want to see how much you're going to be receiving for the following academic year, you could just be on a lookout for your aid package around the summer semester. It's also really important to know or understand the different requirements for the awards. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the different aid programs on your aid offer that's been offered to you, and make sure that you understand either the renewal requirements, the eligibility requirements in order to receive it or renew your scholarship, or your financial aid, your federal financial aid. Now, not everything is renewable. What you receive this year does not automatically mean you're going to receive it the following year. So just make sure you keep that in mind. But there are scholarships like your Bright Futures or any admission scholarships. Those are renewable financial aid. So you just want to make sure that you understand the renewal requirements for those scholarships. Financial aid is subject to change depending on your enrollment, depending on your eligibility, depending if you're in-state, out-of-state, if that changes. So if anything changes with your information, this can affect your financial aid offer as well. If there are any changes, we will notify you through your UFL email address, and you'll also be able to see it on your one.uf page. Okay, so in terms of actually dispersing financial aid or actually applying that money, releasing that money, we have the first thing to know is that financial aid gets dispersed after the drop add period. So students at the beginning of each semester have a drop add period where they're finalizing their schedule, right? They're adding or they're dropping courses and just making a lot of changes to their schedule. Once that drop add period is over, that's when we can begin to release financial aid, because we will know how much students, how many credits that a student is enrolled in, and we can make any adjustments needed to their financial aid package accordingly. So once we have all of that cleared and squared away, assuming that you've completed all of your requirements on your one.uf page, there's no to-dos, there's no holds on your account, we can begin to release your financial aid. So once we release your financial aid, the amount that you're receiving, whether it's scholarships, grants, student loans that you've accepted, all of that gets kind of pulled together and it gets applied to your charges. So charges includes tuition, includes housing if you're living on campus, meal plans if you're purchasing a meal plan option. Your financial aid gets applied to those charges first. After it's applied, if you have more charges than you do financial aid, you're going to be owing money to the University of Florida. So once your financial aid gets applied, you'll receive an email saying, hey, your financial aid has dispersed. You just want to make sure that you go back on your one.uf page, check your campus finance section. And if you have charges that are left over, you can then go and make that payment to cover the remaining balance. You just want to make sure you do that so that you don't accrue any late fees on your charges. So if you have more charges than financial aid, just make sure you make the payment for the remaining balance once that financial aid is applied. Now, if you have more financial aid versus charges, you're going to have excess aid, and that's going to result in a refund. So I talked about earlier about the direct deposit. This is how we get the money to you through your direct deposit account. So if you have a checking account on your name, it can be any bank that you're comfortable with. You can add that to your one.uf page, and any excess money will be directly deposited into your bank account. It's the quickest and safest way to receive a refund. If you don't submit direct deposit information on your 1.UF, we're going to mail out a check to you, and that's going to take longer. It's going to take a bit longer for that mail to reach you, and then you have to go cash it out. And sometimes we run into issues where the address on the student's file is not correct, or a check gets lost, and then it's a whole process. So to make sure that you receive your money in a timely manner so that you can use it for other expenses, I strongly recommend setting up a direct deposit account so that you can receive your money quickly. Oh, another thing that I want to mention is the student permissions. So this is more so for students who are receiving any federal aid. The student permissions allows us to use your federal financial aid to pay for those charges. So when we disperse financial aid, if you give us permission, we can use that money to pay for all of your charges first before you receive a refund. If you don't give the student permissions, what will happen is that financial aid, I believe it only pays the tuition portion, but if you have housing or meal plan charges on your account, we're not going to pay those. We're going to refund you the money, and then you'll have to make sure you go back onto your account to make the payment. So to just make sure that the process is smooth for you and you don't have to worry about making more payments, you can give that student permission so that we can apply your financial aid to all of your charges before giving you a refund. Okay. All right, so just a reminder, any financial aid that you're receiving, especially with the refunds that you're receiving, it's meant to be used for educational expenses. So educational expenses includes, housing, which is, rent, food, if you need to buy groceries, supplies, books. You can use it for technology. You can use it for transportation expenses, clothing, or personal expenses. So we really encourage you to use those funds for those expenses. If you use it for something else and you run out of money and you need money to pay for other educational expenses, it's going to be really difficult for us to help you with that. So just make sure that you're using it for your education. Plan ahead, create a budget. A couple of tips that we like to share with students is tracking your funds. So you can create a budget for the semester. We disperse financial aid at the beginning of each semester. So for the fall, when we disperse financial aid, you'll want to create a budget for the fall semester and just kind of like stretch out your financial aid refund for that fall semester. Try to prioritize your spending, set financial goals. Save up for a rainy day. You want to build up an emergency fund just in case something comes up that you don't expect. And then you can make some room for fun. We know that you're here for college. Just keep in mind that the money is not, you don't want to spend it on a vacation trip to Italy or something, or go on a $2,000 shopping spree. This money is meant for your education, so you just want to make sure that you're smart with using your finances and planning accordingly. Another good tip to keep in mind, if you don't know where to start in terms of what to budget for, our cost of attendance is a great starting point. So if you're not sure how much to set aside for food or housing, use the cost of attendance number that we have on our financial aid website to just start you off. And then as the semesters go on, if you feel like you use less or if you feel like you use more, you can adjust your budget accordingly. All right. Now let's talk about maintaining eligibility. How do we maintain financial aid eligibility? Well, if you're receiving federal financial aid, I talked about this earlier, one of the things that you're required to do is maintain satisfactory academic progress, or SAP. SAP requires a student to maintain a 2.0 GPA. It requires them to complete 75% of all attempted coursework. And the Department of Education puts a limit to how many credits a student should be completing their degree in order to receive financial aid. So you are required to complete a degree within 160 credit hours. If you fall below the 2.0 GPA, if you fall below the 75% completion rate, or if you go over that 160 credit hour limit, you will be terminated for federal aid. So you will lose eligibility for your federal aid. And you'll see on your financial aid summary page that you're no longer meeting SAP. If there are extenuating circumstances as to why you're not meeting those requirements, there are petition options available for students on our website that they can submit to have their eligibility reevaluated. And if those petitions are approved, then your financial aid would be reinstated. So that's just something to keep in mind. We do check SAP at the end of each academic year. So by the end of the spring semester, if you're not meeting SAP, you'll receive an email notification letting you know about your status. Okay. Other things to keep in mind is are your to-do list. So making sure that you're completing your financial aid to-dos. If you're submitting a FAFSA application, a certain amount of FAFSA applications are selected for what's called federal verification. And verification is a federal review, where they review the information that you submitted on your FAFSA. They may ask for certain documentation to make sure that the information you submitted is correct and accurate. So if you are selected for federal verification, you'll see that on your to-do list on the 1.UF. You probably would have also received an email address on a UF email about that as well. So if you are selected, you just want to make sure you submit any documentation that's being requested of you as soon as possible. If verification is not complete, we cannot release your federal financial aid. So it'll put a delay on your federal financial aid if verification is not complete. Now, verification is handled by a third party. It's called ProEd Services. So if you are selected for verification, it'll, on your 1.UF page on the to-do list, it'll include a link where it'll take you to our ProEd website, and you'll be able to see what documentation is being required from you. If you have any questions about the documentation that you need or the documentation you've submitted, you can contact the ProEd Services at the number here. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. So someone will be able to assist you through that process. Once you've completed verification with ProEd, they'll send that information to our office. We'll see that you're cleared for verification, and then we can proceed with releasing your financial aid. So again, you just want to make sure you get that cleared off as soon as possible. For student loans, if you plan on taking either the subsidized or the unsubsidized loan, you want to make sure that you accept it on your 1.UF, complete the entrance counseling and the master promissory note, which will show up on your to-do list as well. And then it'll take you to the studentaid.gov website where you'll complete both of those requirements. For PLUS loans, if a parent is planning on taking out a PLUS loan, you won't have to physically accept that on your 1.UF page. So if you're looking at your financial aid offer and you see the PLUS loan, you're probably only going to see the option to decline. And that's because that's just a predicted amount that's on your aid offer. In order to actually receive the PLUS loan, the parent would have to complete an application on the studentaid.gov website. Once they are approved and we process your loan application, we will add the loan to the student's aid package, and you'll see it as automatically accepted on the award package. So it wouldn't be anything that you have to do to actually accept it, except to complete the application. In addition to completing the application, you'll just have to also complete the master promissory note. The parents will have to do that as well in order to complete that acceptance process. With student loans, again, you are required to be enrolled at least 6 credits. So just make sure you're keeping that in mind when you're enrolling in courses. If you're enrolled in less than that, we will not be able to distribute any student loans to you. Okay. Other requirements. So with a lot of federal aid programs, it does require a FAFSA application on file. Unlike Bright Futures, where it automatically renews as long as you meet the requirements, FAFSA does not automatically renew. You have to apply every year in order to be considered for financial aid. The application for FAFSA opens up on October 1st every single year. So on October 1st, this upcoming October 1st, 2022, the application for the 2023-2024 academic year, which is next year, that's going to open up on October 1st this year. It will require the 2021 tax return, so you can just have that out and ready. So once the application opens up, you can go ahead and submit that. And then you just want to submit that as soon as possible so that you can get it out the way and not have to worry about submitting an application closer to the fall semester of next year. So just to keep that in mind, you want to complete an application every year. It's on studentaid.gov. If you have an extenuating circumstance or a family situation where the FAFSA information does not accurately reflect your current circumstances or your current income information, there are also petitions available for that as well on our website, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in this upcoming slide. Again, most federal aid programs, most financial aid programs require students to be enrolled at least half-time, so 6 credits. So if you're enrolling in courses and you're thinking about taking, I don't know, less than that for a semester, just keep in mind that that may affect your financial aid. And of course, if you're not sure, please reach out to our office to make sure that you're enrolling in the right number of classes so that you can receive your federal financial aid. All right, so we're going to go into the last portion of this presentation, and that's petitioning financial aid. So sometimes students may have, extenuating circumstances or changes in the household that may affect their, financial aid. So there are various types of petitions that are available to students, and we'll just kind of do a quick overview of what those are. All of these forms are available online at the SFA website, and they can be submitted online as well. So for students who, this first one here, the financial aid scholarships petition, if you, for whatever reason, did not meet your SAP for the academic year, or maybe you did not meet the renewal requirements for Bright Futures, or you did not meet the renewal requirements for your admission scholarship, there is the financial aid scholarships petitions that student can complete to explain what the situation was, and if they can provide documentation, if they have like some type of extenuating circumstances, they can provide that information through that petition. It gets reviewed by a committee, and if it's approved, then their financial aid can be reestablished. They can regain eligibility for the scholarship or the financial aid. So that's a scholarship that's out there for students if they find themselves in that situation. The next one is the financial aid revision petition. The FAFSA application uses tax returns from 2 years prior. So this upcoming FAFSA, the one that's opening up on October 1st, it's using the 2021 tax information. And a lot can happen between 2021 and up to now. So if you're in a situation where maybe someone lost a job, or there's a change in the marital status or change in the household information that's not reflected on FAFSA, the financial aid revision petition could be an option for you. And this just allows our office to review your information to see what your current situation is and possibly reevaluate your financial aid package. It does not guarantee additional aid, but we can at least take a look at it to see if it will help the student qualify for anything else. All right, the next one is the budget increase form. So we talked about that cost of attendance. Students who are receiving federal financial aid, or certain types of financial aid that requires you to be within your cost of attendance. Again, we can't award you over your cost of attendance. However, sometimes students may find themselves spending more than what we budgeted for in the cost of attendance. So if you have expenses that exceed what we budget for, then the budget increase form may be an option for you so that we can make sure your budget reflects what you're actually spending here at UF. All right, this last petition is the dependency override petition. With the FAFSA application, students are generally considered dependent of their parents, and they are required to submit parental information. If the student is considered dependent, which most students are, but there's some type of severe circumstance or extenuating circumstance where they cannot provide parental information, then the dependency override petition may be an option for their situation, so that they can be considered an independent student. Now, really quick, what considers a student as dependent or independent? Well, for FAFSA purposes, an independent student is a student who's either 24 or older, they are married, or they may have children or other dependents that they care for. And that's what we'll consider them as independent. And there's a couple of other requirements as well, and that's listed on the FAFSA application. But for the most part, undergraduate students do not meet those criteria. So it doesn't matter if a student is not claimed on their taxes. It doesn't matter if they're, paying themselves, paying their own way through school. If they do not meet those criteria to be an independent student, they're going to be considered dependent and will be required to provide parental information. So again, this petition option is more so for students who are considered dependent and have really extenuating circumstances where they cannot provide parental information on the FAFSA application. Again, these are posted, these petitions are available on our website. And just as a quick plug here, we are actually going to have a financial aid petitions webinar, which goes more into depth about the different types of petitions that are available to students. Those webinars are going to happen on Monday and Tuesday, Monday, August 15 at 3, and Tuesday, August 16 at 10 a.m. Emails were sent out to the student, I believe, about a week or two ago. So if you're interested and want more information about these different types of petitions, I definitely want to see you there. It's going to be really informative and go more into details about the different petitions. So definitely register so that you can come in and get more information on that. So we have the UF One Stop. Our One Stop is where students can go to receive assistance on financial aid. If they have questions about admissions or registration or holds or fees or things like that, the One Stop would be a great resource for you to contact in order to get assistance on that. So if you have any questions after this presentation, or even at any point throughout the academic year, definitely contact our One Stop office for assistance.